Hey folks, welcome back to the farm. We got a little snow last Friday. If you can see some of this over here by the shop. But we got about 3 inches, but it's been warming up. The sun's been out, had some beautiful days out here, so it's kind of all melted off. Before we get too far into the video, we need to update our newest subscribers. So I thought I'd come out here to my favorite chair. Looks like we got some visitors from next door. Hi girls. It's the neighbor's cows. They come up here and check us out. They play with Brandy the Wonder Dog. So let's go through our new subscribers. We've had an explosion here lately, so I actually had to make a list. So here we go. Olita Edwards, and I apologize if I butcher any of your guys' names. Moreover Sherrill, Debbie Seacrest, Deborah Bonham, Joni Israfil, Vanita Sharon, Cinderelli, I love that one, Natalie Monashef, Rude Dog 2004, Barbara Cole, Tammy Stevens, maybe my cousin because I have a cousin named Tammy Stevens, Holland 171, Howard Boshan, Imru, and Logan Govier. The last guy there I know. That was the gentleman here locally, the farmer that I hauled soybeans and corn for. Real nice guy, beautiful family. His wife would actually bring us dinner out when we were working late out in the field. Fantastic cook. So I wanted to update you guys on the chicken coop. We haven't worked on it because of the weather. And Kelly'd been working so hard on it with me that she wanted to take a little break. So we took a little break once we got the paint on. But we're all dried in. We'll show you what it looks like. Here we are. We've got the exterior coat of paint on. The windows and doors are all sealed up. And we're not worried about weather now. This pump is new if you hadn't seen it. It's from my aunt and uncle's ranch. It's not hooked up to anything. It's just sitting here in the ground. So let's bring you up to date. We've got all the edges and everything caulked, so we're nice and sealed up. We've caulked around all the windows and doors and everything like that. We have yet to pick up the fascia board for out here. I'm just going to get a 16-foot piece of pressure treat 2x4, and that'll be painted the same color as the trim. So that's probably it since last time. Let's go inside, show you around in here while we can still see. Kelly's going to be putting a table over here. Well, I'm going to be putting it here. She can help, I guess. Right here. And in this corner, that's just a temporary shelf I could put tools on when I've been working in here. In this corner, she's going to have her kind of hospital pen down here with a door going out where she can put chickens in quarantine or whatever, like if she gets new chickens. On top of that is going to be a brooder for little chicks when she gets them. And through this door here will be the nesting area. We've already got our nest box that we got on Junk Jaunt hung on the wall. And we have our trim boards in here, got them out of the weather. There's going to be roosting bars on this side over here. And then this door will go out into the outdoor run, which will come out this direction and actually wrap around this side of the building almost up to that door, and it'll come out to probably almost to this bush out here. Now we're going to be bringing water over here. We have a hydrant over there behind the flagpole, kind of where you see that lick tub over there. And there was a valve that used to send water across the road to a stock tank over there back when the previous owner's family owned all of this. So that pipeline going underneath the road is no longer used. So where that valve is, we're going to dig down, remove the connection at that valve, leaving the valve there. And then we're going to run water over here to the barn, the Quonset, so we have water over here for when we're butchering animals. And then from there, we're going to run straight over probably to the corner of Kelly's chicken run over here, maybe right here. And we'll put a hydrant right here so she has it to fill her water cans and such. We already have a hydrant over there behind the garden. And then another hydrant over there by the house. And then a hydrant over there. So we're doing pretty good on hydrants. So everything's looking real good. We're real pleased with the chicken coop. So I wanted to go over hanging doors today. So let's take a look at our doors. We got these doors for free from an acquaintance of mine here in Nebraska. I have breakfast with him 3 times a week. But he had these old metal doors laying around at his place, and he gifted them to us. They weren't in perfect shape. We had to spot weld some areas on them, re-screw some of the skins on them in a couple of places, but for a chicken coop, they work fantastic. So here's one of those doors. We replaced the hinges on the doors because they were a little blowed out and most of them were missing anyway. And you can see the latches had probably been somebody probably tried to break into wherever these doors were. But they still work just fine. So we wire brushed them, sanded them down, and painted them this gray color, which will be just a little bit lighter than the trim, I think. But they work out fine. Now these doors did not come with frames. They were not pre-hung doors. And if you get a door that's not a pre-hung door, you can still use it. You don't need the door frame. You can make your own. So what we did is based on the size of the door, and this door and the other side metal door were the same size door. I believe they're 36-inch doors. So you just measure the outside of the door, and that will be your rough opening. Normally, when you have a pre-hung door, you have to have a bigger rough opening because you have the 3/4 of an inch on either side for the door frame. So that adds 1.5 inches to your rough opening. But because we're hanging the doors ourselves, we just made our rough opening the same size as the door. I allowed 1/2 inch more, so we'd have about a 1/4 inch gap on either side of the door and top and bottom. We were originally going to put standard metal thresholds down here, but I decided just to leave the pressure treated wood and then turn that into just a kind of a homemade wooden threshold, which is going to work out fine. So when you're standing the building up and putting it together, it's very imperative that these frames stay completely square. And the siding, when you put the siding on, it actually really helps with that because the siding acts like a giant square all on its own. Because the plywood siding sheets are perfectly square, you can square the building with those sheets. So if you remember, we had braces in here keeping our building somewhat square when we framed it. So as we were putting siding on, we could kick those braces loose. We could completely square the siding on one corner and then look where it landed on the other end of the siding. These were split right in the middle. So you could tell by the top and bottom of the siding, the T111 siding, whether you were square or not. And if you're not square, you just move the end of the building one way or the other until the top of that siding or the bottom of the siding lines up perfectly with your plates. And then you can screw the other corner. When you first put it up, you can fasten this end as much as you want. But until you get it square, don't put any other screws in it. Because if you just fasten this corner, it will allow your structure to still move. It'll still rack is what we call it, this way and that. So once your top seam is perfectly lined up with your plate, you put a screw up in this corner, and then just even with that one screw, this building is not going anywhere. It's really super solid. So you can imagine once you get all your screws in there, this is what we call a shear wall whenever you have a solid plywood covering. This whole wall, the siding keeps everything from racking. So you know it's perfectly square, and that siding is the best square you can use when you're wanting these doors to be square. So if all of your 2x4s and everything are right on the money, where they're supposed to be, everything comes out perfectly square. So once we had the siding up, we were ready to hang the doors. And I may have even hung the doors before we put the siding up. I'm not quite sure, but I think we waited. So we replaced the hinges, like I said. These are brand new hinges. So you hold the door up. Remember, we had a 1/4 inch gap on both sides. And that worked out well for the hinges because the hinges didn't have to be mortised into the frame. See how they're mortised into the door here? They're flush. Because we left the gap, we did not have to mortise these hinges. So then we just had to make sure the top and bottom gap of the door were good. So we eyeballed that, made sure we had the same air gap on top and on the bottom. And then we could go ahead and put all of our screws in our hinge. And then you close the door, making sure your gaps line up. Let's see how we did with this door. So you can see on this edge how our gaps are pretty well the same all the way up and down. So we did a pretty bang up job squaring this door up. Not too bad. And then we got a nice even gap along the top, pretty close. So then once you get your door hung, then you need to build your door frame or your door molding. And your pre-hung doors will already come with the molding on the door. So all we did was take a 2x4 and we cut them 3/4 of an inch thick. So 1.5 inches this way, 3/4 this way. And I used the rounded edge of the 2x4 for these. Anything that stayed square we used on the top and bottom because we don't mess with these. But for these edges that we're going to be rubbing on and stuff, we wanted them kind of rounded. That's why we use the outside. So we need to determine out which way your doors open and whether you want them opening in or out. So because this one opens out, you want it to be flush on the outside of the wall. And you do that when you screw your hinges to the door frame. Make your door flush or whatever setback you want. And then when we do our trim will go right around the outside of this door here. But once you get your door set, you come inside. You got all your trim pieces cut. So you come in here and put your trim right against the door. I pre-drilled all of my screw holes and countersunk them. So you lay your trim up here against the door and run your screws in. So you got a nice tight section here. You can see we got a little gap here because we still have to adjust the door latches. We just barely got them in right now, but you can see when we pull the door all the way closed how we got a nice tight seal all the way around. We got a little bit of daylight down there, but not too bad. We did put a piece of molding down there, but we got molding all the way up to the top. And that closes your gaps up around your door. Now you can come in here later with some of that stick-on weather sealant and put some of that stick-on weather seal tape in here if you'd like and tighten that up. Or they have the metal strips with the rubber on the edges of them with a bunch of screw holes. You can actually tighten up your tolerance with one of those too if you'd like. But for a chicken coop, you really don't need that. Let's go look, see how we did on our other door. We did the same thing. Now this door opened in, so our molding needs to go on the outside of the door. So you can see our molding out here. You just hang the door in the same fashion. Shove your molding up against the door, pre-drill and countersink your screws. And shove your molding against the door, screw it in. And that closes your little 1/4 inch gap over here on the sides. Now this window, or this door had a window in it. It's just a kind of a plexiglass window, I think, but we'll clean that up. This door's got a few more dings in it, but for a chicken coop door, it's just fine. You can see on my one piece of siding I cut up a little bit too far, but trim board's going to cover that, so it makes no difference. So we're talking about trim, and we'll show you a video when we do the trim. So there's going to be a trim board. The first one I put on is going to be right up top of the wall underneath the eave here. And it's going to be flat on the wall, 1x4, and we're going to shove it right up against those bird blocks, so it'll seal that edge up really nice. Obviously going to have trim around the door. We'll have trim around the windows. We'll have trim down. We'll cap both sides of the corner. So we'll put a piece of trim on this side that matches this piece. Come out here, they'll match up here on the edge. And then this piece of trim we put out here, we'll hold it out, comes out even with the other trim. So it won't stop here. It's going to actually come out 3/4 of an inch more to meet the outer edge of the side trim when we put it up. And I had to buy 4 10-foot pieces merely because this piece on this side is a little bit taller than 8 foot because of the rake of the roof here. Not much, but we did it nonetheless. And then the little bit of fascia board that shows underneath that edge trim for the roof will get painted the same color. We're not going to run any trim along our seam here where the Z-bar is. That Z-bar seals it up just nice, just fine, but we will put trim around these windows. Now, when we have windows like this that are exposed to the elements, this top piece of trim here, we're going to put a 45-degree cut on the top piece of trim. So that way there's no water standing on top of that trim where it can start deteriorating our wood. But these windows are sealed up really well. We silicone them up real nice. We got a good seal. When we put this piece of trim on, we got to make sure we seal the top where this detail is in the siding. It kind of takes a step in. Kind of simulates a batten board siding. But we'll seal that top edge so no water can hang up down there. But even if the water were to get back there, it'll just run all the way through. So right here it may not because it's almost flush. But we'll make sure we seal that up nice. We can pump that whole thing full of caulking if we want, fill that whole gap. Here's the back side down here. 2 more windows. And this will have trim just like the other corner. These windows will get trimmed out as well. So that's where we're at. Now, we're probably going to wait till the spring because we're not far away from the ground freezing here in Nebraska. It hasn't frozen yet. You have to have sustained freezing temperatures for weeks at a time before the ground starts to actually freeze and it gets down a couple feet into the dirt. All the water pipes here in Nebraska are buried. They recommend about 5 feet, and that gets them below the frost line. So if the ground doesn't freeze in the near future, I remember last year in January, we were pulling T-post out in the garden area, which is unheard of in the winter, because when the ground freezes, you're not going to get that T-post out of the ground. It's like cemented into the ground. But we were pulling T-post in January, so the ground still wasn't froze last year in January, but it froze after that. February, latter part of January, February, March were all real cold and we had frozen ground. So if the ground doesn't freeze right away, we have some posts to put in out here for the outdoor chicken run. And we'll probably put in 10-foot posts. We'll put them a couple feet into the ground. Probably till we have about a 7-foot height on the chicken run. And Kelly's going to cover it all with number 10 hardware cloth. And she's even doing the top, so predators can't get at her chickens. So it'll come out here just past the door, come out about 8 feet, take off and go that way. I think she's going to put a little segregation run right here, maybe 4 foot or so. for her segregation pen, but there'll be a gate tying both together. So if she's not using this for segregation, she can open that door and the chickens can be in here too. But that run is going to run out here. I'm not exactly sure how far she's going to come out. I'm assuming maybe 15 feet out here. And then the fence will come this way and then across this way. We'll probably have a gate out here somewhere where we can muck out the pen, use the tractor, pull the tractor up to the gate, whatever. And then I believe this breezeway here is going to stay open. So we'll come from the corner of the coop out here, out this way, and then back down here, all covered. So it'll be Taj Mahal of chicken coops, let me tell you. Kelly's building this thing like Fort Knox because she doesn't want her precious chickens being bothered by any predators. And I don't blame her. They're her pets and she doesn't want to see them, anything bad happen to them. And there are predators out here. I've seen some eagles out here that could carry a baby off, let me tell you. It was in one of the trees out here. Pretty insane. But you can see what fall the toll has taken on the garden. The garden's pretty much done till spring. We probably won't worry about cleaning out there till the spring because it'll give a chance for everything to rot real good and be easier to deal with, and it'll till in a lot better. We do have a hole in our new drip line right here. I don't know if it's a new hole or if it was already in there, but I got some couplers I bought to fix that. And then there'll be another drip line eventually from this tree. We're going to make another row of trees here. But it was warm enough. The bees were probably flying today, but I did not go check. But beautiful sunset out here in Nebraska. I just love it out here. I love the peaceful time we have out here so far out in the country. We are 13 miles off of the pavement road. But there's a lot of people that live out here, just not real close. I think our nearest neighbor is like a mile. So it's real nice. We really enjoy it. We've lived in town a lot of our lives, or a lot of my life. Kelly and I have only been together for like 7-8 years. But we both lived in town mostly. I had a little stint where I lived out in the country and really enjoyed that. But I grew up in the country, but there were still houses nearby and lots going on. Right here it's super peaceful. I can play my radio in my shop as loud as I want to, and nobody complains. And the only time we hear any noise is during the summer when the irrigation's going on. We hear a couple of the pivots running around here. If you've watched our videos during the summer, you can kind of hear those, but it isn't so much you can hear it in the house. It's not too bad. We still got to get our grain bin electricity ran. Another friend of mine is loaning us a small trencher to do that with. Unfortunately, when he went to pull it out and bring it over, it wouldn't run. So he's got it at a shop right now, and I got to wait until it's done at the shop. So hopefully the ground's not going to freeze before it gets fixed, but we're running power from about this point across here and then right over to the shop, and I have an open circuit in there that I can use. Now, I talked with the previous owner the other day. I guess the power line coming from the shop, the main power comes from the shop to the house. I guess when it gets over here in this area here, there used to be some corn cribs here. So the power wire went out around the corn crib and back. So I'm probably going to have to get an electrician out here to locate that. He says it's not too deep, so I don't want to tear that up because that would be pretty expensive to replace. So I'll probably get that located. I may have to go out a little further and maybe come into the back of the grain bin. I'm not sure. Now there's an old pipe that went to an old well that's probably buried so deep I don't have to worry about it, but it went from here all the way up to where you see that tree up on the hill. That's where the old well was. You can almost see the old wellhead between the trees there. There was a windmill up there that supplied water down here. Walk up here in the back and check out the cows. Whenever the wind's blowing, there's probably 100 or more cows out here on these corn stalks next door. And if the wind's blowing, they all crowd up here in here to this lane and get all huddled up together, staying warm. Got some tough cows out here in Nebraska. Those happy California cows would probably die out here. But you'll see these cows out here, they'll have 2 inches of snow on their back just chilling. Literally. What's up, girls? How are you doing today? Some good looking cows. Beautiful. But you can see them all out there in the corn stalks. Whole bunch of cows out there. This area here that they're standing in, this lane, was full of that volunteer marijuana out here. They've got it all stomped down now. So it'll grow back real nice. It's all been replanted. This structure here, the neighbor was tearing down this spring. There was more buildings and stuff up here. Now they're just kind of a retaining wall. But we got all the metal off of that building when they tore it down, and it got a couple posts. But he's still got a few things to tear down up here. And I got to get the burn pile burnt. Tried to get a burn permit the other day. They said it's too dry to burn out here, but I was going to burn in the snow, but they still wouldn't issue it. So we'll have to wait till winter time before they allow us to burn that down. And then I moved our IBC totes back here, so couldn't see them from the road because they're kind of an eyesore. Still haven't decided what I want to do with those. I was going to make raised beds with them, but I would probably line the outside of it with something to make them a little more appealing to the eye, because I don't like the whole industrial look they got going on. Now right here I have firewood, big limbs piled up, stuff that's good size to burn in the shop in my wood stove. I only put the little tiny stuff out there and the big stuff that I don't want to split. But all my firewood I pile right here, so whenever I need some, I can bring that wood carrier out of the shop out here with the tractor, cut it up, restack it, and then use the tractor to drive it back into the shop. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of the wood that we have around here. Our shelter belt here is just full of firewood that we can pull out of there. So that's our little update on the chicken coop and what's going on around the farm. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. Welcome to all of you new subscribers. We hope you enjoy our channel and enjoy our content. If you do like it, like and share and hit the little bell, and then you'll be notified whenever we post new videos. Our goal is to not go crazy and make a living on this stuff, but we want to try to help as many people as we can learn the old way of doing stuff, get in the kitchen, make some recipes, do some handiwork out in the shop, and gardening and such like that. So if that's your lifestyle and you want to learn how to do something old, sign up to our channel. We'll try to help you out with that. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. We'll see you on the next video.